So hey, I'm Triage from alttabme.com, and today we are going to be starting a new series called Behind the Avatar. And the whole point of this is to kind of get a little bit more of the person behind the avatar. You know, what makes someone tick? Why do they play a specific game? Why do they play games in general? I feel like everybody has a story and everybody has a reason as to why video games are important to them, or how they've ruined their lives, or whatever it could be. You know, why do you game? What's the reasoning for it? How did you get started? I feel like there's so many cool stories that everybody has as to what, you know, gaming means to them and why they got involved in it. And so I wanted to kind of interview people and go into their game of choice and, you know, take it from there. So, yeah, I guess we'll get started. I have with me, well, why don't you introduce yourself, sir? What is your name?
Sure.
And where are you from?
I can certainly introduce myself. On alttabme, I am known as Malouda. So that's what people know me as, and I currently live in Chicago, so that is where we are live, or that's where we're talking right now.
We are live from Chicago.
Live from Chicago. I can't get over your radio voice right now, by the way. Like, listening to your intro, I'm like, oh my god, this is so good. So, yes, live from Chicago and New York for Triage. So, yep. Yeah, so we're in Star Wars right now, the Old Republic. That's what we're playing for my interview.
So why did you choose here? First of all, why don't you? I'm gonna follow you. You go ahead and kill some stuff, and I'll try to help the best I can. Yeah, and while we're doing that, why don't you tell me why you chose, you know, Star Wars as your game of choice for this?
Sure. So, all right. So I'm gonna try to like figure out what I'm doing here. So I haven't played this character in forever. Okay. So I chose Star Wars: The Old Republic. Probably because for the majority of my gaming life, or I guess maybe half of my gaming life, I've been in MMOs, MMORPGs. And so the earliest MMO that I played was the EverQuest franchise. And then I slowly moved to from that to others. And so right now, this is the only MMO that I'm playing at the moment. I'm still a subscriber to this MMO, and that's why I decided to pick this game, since the better part of my life, MMOs have been part of it. And so I think maybe aside from being in grad school, and I probably didn't play too many games. Sorry, I'm looking at the map.
That's fine. No, that's the whole that's the dangers of playing games while you try to talk.
I'm like trying to sound intelligent.
No, it's the old trick. It's like what the therapists do. They bring you out to lunch so that you talk about it more and more comfortably. So,
sure.
It's alright. I'm super elite with this character, so I got you.
These are elites too. Is your pet on healing mode? Because that would be nice.
I think so. Yeah. It looks like someone's healing me.
Alright, so that should be okay. We have two healers, because my pet's healing too. So I chose this game. I still subscribe to it. I played this game at launch, when it launched. It was like 2011 or something like that. And I love it. This is probably one of those games that I leave for a while and I come back to, and then I leave for a while and I come back to. They've done a lot with it, and so it's just probably one of the few that's held my attention. Suppose that there's probably any other MMO that I could play right now, but kind of where I'm at in my life, it's very difficult for me to keep up with what you need to do to keep up with an MMO. And for better or for worse, BioWare doesn't really add too much new content to this game, which the hardcore players are very upset about. But for someone like me who has become a little bit more casual, but still likes MMOs and the things that come with MMOs,
I'm needing that sucker.
Need what you want. This is all like trash for me, so take what you want.
So all right, I think a question that is you know, besides what BioWare is up to, this is more about you. I want to know more about you. So tell me, you know, what was the first video game that you can remember playing?
the first video game, which is what got me into video games, was Duck Hunt on the Nintendo.
Duck Hunt.
Yes, you remember that, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, my dad. This was, I think, in the '80s, and I don't remember how old I was. Probably 5 or 6 or whatever. My dad came home one day with a Nintendo, and of course, like, I had no idea what this was, but he pulled it out and put it together, and this one had the shooty gun and the track map, and then, you know, the starter games that came with the Nintendo. And there was, I think the first one that we actually ended up playing as a family was Duck Hunt. And so, you know, in that time, I think Duck Hunt is only single player. So we would, like, take turns and, you know, try to shoot the little duckies. And so that was my earliest experience with video games, and it's also what got me into them to start. And video games throughout my life actually have served different purposes. But at least my earliest childhood memory... Oh, words.
We got a quest.
Sorry. And anytime I see loot, I get excited. So my earliest memory with video games is Duck Hunt. That's the first one that I played.
Nice. So,
yeah.
you know, when did you start gaming?
So started with Duck Hunt. You know, my parents would buy us different games as they were able to. I grew up in probably a lower middle class family, so it wasn't that we were poor or anything, but my parents, you know, would just buy us games to keep us somewhat interested, but not give us too many so that it was expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, we played things like, I'm trying to remember things that I played as a kid. You know, all the Mario games that were on Nintendo, and then the Super Nintendo, Street Fighter, Streets of Rage, Double Dragon, the Battletoad game. So all of those, like, wow, I'm like sitting here remembering all these things, and it's bringing up all these, like, memories.
You're like,
I'm just thinking, like, oh my god, I remember those games. So, you know, we basically kept up with the systems for the most part. We went from a Super Nintendo to, I had a Genesis at one point, and we had a Dreamcast, N64, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2. So, you know, I think ever since a little kid, I've just always been playing video games. My interests in video games changed as I got older. You know, obviously when you're a kid, you know, we played a lot of the co-op games, Mario Kart. I'm remembering Mario Kart now.
Who did you mostly play with? Did you play with friends? Did you play with family?
So, early childhood was mostly just my brothers. I have 2 younger brothers. And so early childhood, it was just them. As we got older, and then as we started making friends in the neighborhood, you know, obviously we started to have friends over to play video games too. And so any of I think there's a SWTOR around here because that thing.
Yeah, I know, it popped out of nowhere. I was like, I literally, we both like yeah, we both kind of ran backwards. We were like, oh shit, what?
Okay, all right, I see where to go next. So, brothers, family. My parents didn't play too much. They were usually at work. Video games also somewhat served as a pseudo babysitter for us. Because my mom worked night shift, and so during the day when she was home, she was usually asleep. And so video games were also a way to keep us somewhat quiet and somewhat out of trouble. Because if we weren't playing video games, we were probably breaking shit. And so
that makes sense, yeah.
Because three guys, you know, and we were young, and so we were always running around and doing stuff. So video games kind of kept us somewhat out of trouble in that regard.
So were video games something that you defaulted to, or were you know, did you go outside and play? Did you know, what was your main source of entertainment?
So I'm gonna stick with early childhood for now because that's kind of the train of thought that I'm in. But so childhood, we did everything from playing video games to going outside. I was a little bit artistic as a kid, So I would also like draw. I actually remember drawing things. I wasn't very good at it, but you know, I remember drawing like my favorite X-Men or random things that I like to draw. I played with Legos as a kid, so we did some of that. I did some reading because actually most of my reading was because it was required for school. It wasn't until later that I actually started reading for, you know, personal consumption of it as a form of entertainment. But so yeah, we did everything. And so I think video games also gave us a way to be creative as kids, because when we would play outside, I think we did, I guess, what as adults call it LARPing now. But, you know, we would pretend to be superheroes or whatever and save the world and, you know, run around the neighborhood and find things to, you know, be secret hideouts or go into like...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so...
No, I played Spy Kid. I mean, who didn't? That was the bomb.
Exactly. So we definitely did a lot of things. Video games were always a part of just one of the things that, you know, as kids we just enjoyed. My brothers are also really competitive, and so it also served as a form of just competing with one another. I'm secretly competitive. I'm not outwardly competitive, and so they're outwardly competitive. So I would never outwardly, you know, display distress when I lost, but I'm a secret competitor.
I might have just attacked 3 guys. All right, sorry.
No, that's okay. My little mini map thing showed all these red dots, so I figured. So yeah, so as a kid we did everything. As I started to get a little bit older and into my adolescence, and now I'm starting to think middle school, high school, my interest in video games kind of shifted into more of the RPGs. I think the first RPG that kind of got me into them was Final Fantasy VII. And I think I know a lot of people kind of got introduced into just that genre from that game, and so I happen to be one of those people. And so, you know, for a game when I was in middle school playing it, for a game that was so complex and the story was so intricate and deep, and it was, you know, it was just my first time playing a role-playing game before as a video game. You know, up to that point I had just been playing things like Mario Kart, Super Mario, and, you know, Battletoads or whatever the hell else we were playing as kids. And not that those weren't fun games, but it was just a different type of game. And so
what was the appeal to, you know, the MMO as opposed to, you know, the RPG or the you know, the single player game? How did you first get into, let's say, you know, the MMO? Like,
MMOs. Yeah, so
like, did you start small with something like Diablo or Warcraft, or did you get bigger?
Sure.
You know,
there's a heroic mission over here somewhere. So, you know, my first job in high school and into undergrad was at Best Buy. I was a cashier at Best Buy, and so, you know, obviously there are video games at Best Buy, and I remember walking the aisles. I think I was cleaning or doing something or restocking or whatever it was, and, you know, there's the section for the PC games, and, you know, at that point I had strictly been console gaming, and so I had never ventured into the PC section before. And then I saw EverQuest, which, you know, kind of looked like an RPG. At least the cover of it kind of looked like, you know, other RPG games that I had been playing up to that point. And then I saw that you could play with other people. And so I think, you know, the allure of just meeting people online through a video game was just earth-shattering to me, because, you know, up to that point, the only people that I had played games with were people who were local, so close to me. So whether it was my family or my brothers or friends of mine. And so just the idea of getting into a video game and, you know, meeting other people playing the same thing and, you know, questing and leveling up and doing stuff and killing bosses, that just sounded, you know, awesome. And so I think that was the first kind of draw for me to start looking at MMORPGs. And I started with EverQuest, and obviously, I loved it, so I kept up with it. And then, from EverQuest, as soon as I found another MMO that I wanted to try, I tried it. At one point in my life, I played World of Warcraft, and a lot of other MMOs as well. Some free-to-plays in there, and a lot of the AAA titles that still exist today.
So pretty much, once you got the MMO in the blood, you were hooked.
Yeah, that was it. And we need to talk. We need to interact with this. Yeah. So once I got the MMO bug, I kept up with it, and so for the other half of my life, because I started MMOs when I was in school, undergrad, and so that was almost 10 or whatever, and so the second half of my life has really now become MMOs, and then more recently just single player RPGs again. But yeah, so
actually, what, that brings up a question. How do you balance your gaming life and your real life now that you've gotten older?
That is a tough thing to do. It's
Where did these guys come from? What the fuck?
I clicked the little quest thingy to make them appear. Sorry, this is intense. It's like waves coming at us right now.
Oh, okay, I was just curious. All right.
So sorry. This is good because it's giving me time to think about the question while we're killing this boss. I'm stunned. Thank God we have 2 healers right now.
Well, I'm in a safe spot. I got popped up onto the thing here. He can't even get me, so we're good.
Alright, I'll tank it for us even though I'm a DPS.
So yeah, so how do you balance,
so much life. Okay, there's rewards. So I'm at a point in my life now. To back up a little bit, the height of my MMO time was undergrad. That was around the time that I also played World of Warcraft. This was around the Burning Crusade expansion. And this is probably where I spent the most time with MMOs. And aside from going to class and taking tests and going to work, I only worked part-time then. Other than that, all you had was game time. So it was really easy then to kind of just become somewhat addicted to MMOs.
Well, I mean, that's what college is for. It's either to get laid, drink alcohol, skip class, or play video games.
Or all of the above.
Or all of the above, yeah.
Right. So in college, I was able to do that. I'm at a point in my life now. Oh, I forgot.
I'm sorry. I thought those were friendly people.
I'm at a point in my life now where I work a full-time job. It's a pretty high up job in that I'm like in management, and so it's not just 40 hours a week and I clock out. Some weeks I've got tons of shit to do, and so I'm working 50, 60 hours some weeks. So that kind of brings me to what I alluded to earlier, and that I'm at a time in my life now where MMOs inherently are just the way that they're designed to make you grind, and they're designed to make you to continuously chase that carrot, whether it's raiding for better gear or whether it's grinding in PvP to become stronger and stronger. Or
unless you play Ultima Online, and then it's not like that. But hey, what are you gonna do?
Oh, the little pitch! I love it. I do love that you're trying to get us to come to Ultima Online. I appreciate that.
I will succeed too. I will succeed.
I'm hesitating on that. Wait, shit. Why is that? You click the little body down there to start. No, you didn't. We need to go click the corpse.
Okay, my bad.
There was a corpse you didn't. That's fine. It's fine. We'll click the corpse and do your part of it. Because we're in the area anyway, and this is an easy quest. But so yeah. So MMOs are inherently grindy, And
Yes.
so I'm at a point in my life right now where it's very challenging for me to keep up with that. But I still love them. I love the idea of creating a character, creating it in the image that you want them to be, whether it's, you know, male, female, human, alien, elf, you know.
Oh shit, no!
Are you gonna die? So there's an elevator there. I think, can I res you?
I don't know, can you? Is this like Guild Wars? No, I have to return to the meta center.
Okay, well that's pretty close. I'm gonna follow the path to me, and I'll
That was totally my bad.
I'll make my way back to you, and I'll stand in front of the elevator so you don't just run off.
I knew it was there, and somehow I still ended up jumping off the damn thing. Right.
So when you see me, stop. But so and some games will allow you to choose your romantic interest later. One of the reasons why I love this game. Okay, don't run off.
I was like, can I make it? No. Okay.
So I love MMOs from that respect. I love that you can level up in them. I love the fantasy of them, whether it's medieval fantasy or space fantasy. There's just a lot of things about MMOs that I just continue to love, even as I don't have time to play them anymore. And so that's kind of why I always hope and dream that one day I'll just be able to find more time to play them. You know, the last, well, I guess this would be the last MMO that I rated in seriously. Before this game, I was rating in WildStar pretty seriously as well. And part of the reason why I ended up quitting WildStar was just because, you know, the group of people that I was rating with, you know, we were rating 3-4 times a week for 4 hours a night. And for someone who works as much as I do, that's just tough because, you know, some days you're working late and then you're rushing home. I work out a lot and I go to the gym a lot, so that cuts into that time. I like to sleep, so that cuts into that time. I sometimes have meetings early in the morning, so that cuts into my sleep time. And so it was just, I had to quit WildStar because the rating that I was doing and that was just too much for what I was able to keep up with. Okay, so is this thing? Yeah, click that.
So I think the allure to, you know, all of these games is the fact that you can escape that real life, and so I think that it's hard to discern those two different things. It's like, do I want to level up my character to get stronger, or do I want to go to the gym and lift some weights to get stronger? You know, like which one am I going to do today?
All right, so there should be a little switch here somewhere for you to click, and then it's going to spawn those waves again. And I'm glad that you actually brought that up because, you know, there was a point in my life, right before. So to back up a little bit, I'm gay, and I came out of the closet and kind of accepted myself at 17. But there was like a dark period in my life, like right before that, for a couple of years, where I just, you know, I didn't love myself and I had low self-esteem, and, you know, I was questioning a lot of things because I wasn't sure what was going on and why I felt this way, or, you know, why I was attracted to the people that I was attracted to. And so for the time in my life, that dark period of my life, video games served as the way for me to escape from all that, because I could get away from Jason for a little bit, and I could get away from high school for a little bit, and my parents, and, you know, the people that I was attracted to who could not reciprocate that. I could get away from all that for a couple of hours a night and dive into something like Final Fantasy and become a different person and, you know, do other things. And so I think today there is still a lot to that. You know, psychologically now, you know, I'm not in that type of place anymore, but, you know, there is, you know, I would love getting into the Star Wars galaxy and having a lightsaber and killing shit because I can't punch people at work. but I can kill shit in this game and look damn good while I do it. And so there's a lot of that I still carry where video games, and I think a lot of people relate to this, they find it as a way to escape from whatever it is that they want to escape from, even if it's momentarily, and they do that.
So
did you find that damn Switch?
Okay, so I didn't want to interrupt you because you were telling a good story, but like
no, I know. But now I'm like, what the hell are these
I legitimately don't have a Switch, so I don't think I might have clicked the thing that we had to click.
Oh, let's go talk to the bot. So there's a body on the ground that I need you to interact with.
Which I did, I think, and then we have to talk to a bot. Let's see.
Maybe. I wonder if we need to kill something for you to loot it. What does your quest say?
It says
this is the saving face quest. What does that say in your quest log?
It says Triage needs to not run into this battle like this. Holy shit, he's gonna die.
Where's your healer? It's okay, I'm here now.
Thanks.
I got you, boo.
I appreciate it.
I gotcha. Okay.
All right, so I did click this guy, and all right, I'm searching. Oh,
okay,
I finally.
Now, there
bitch,
you go.
geez.
Okay, there we go. We're on the right track.
So my question was being gay in a video game, did that affect your playing at all? Like, did that affect what people thought of you or anything like that? Like, did you struggle? Like, you know how, like in real life, people can judge you very outwardly, but in a video game, it's a little different. But if you told people and stuff like that, did it affect your gaming?
So, yes, it did. In high school when I came out, I lost friends because there were some people who didn't agree with it or didn't accept it or didn't want to believe it, and so. You still get that today, even in video games, although we've come a long way compared to where we were, but it still exists. In the early video games, so games like EverQuest and even like, I think after EverQuest I went to Final Fantasy XI before I went to World of Warcraft. I'm trying to piece back the timeline now, but in EverQuest, as an example, at least when I played it, there were no voice communications, and so all that people knew when they met you was the character that you created and played, and when I played video games, MMOs at the time, you could create whatever you want, and at least in the EverQuest days, I related. Did your quest advance, by the way?
Yes, it did.
Okay, I related more to creating girl characters because girls dated guys, girls had relationships with guys, and so when I was creating characters back in EverQuest, I related more to girls. So that's what I created.
Which is good because they have the better outfits anyway. They always have the best outfit choices.
And as you can see, I still create girl characters because they have better outfits and things look better on them, and I play dress up with the girls. So I played girls, in EverQuest, and at least in early MMO days, before voice comms, when people saw girl characters, they thought that it was a girl behind it.
Yeah.
And I found that people actually treated you differently if they knew that you were a guy behind that girl or if you were a girl behind that girl. And so I didn't lead people on in games to get things from them because I know that also exists sometimes where people like to, and I know there's actually an article on Tab about this, but people may create characters to, take advantage of people. I didn't actually do that in EverQuest, but I did find that if I told people that I was a guy behind the girl, they treated me differently, in a more negative way. And so, at least in the early part of my gaming, before voice comms became a thing, I was always very ambiguous about being a guy, and I didn't tell people I was gay, at least in EverQuest. I just kept it to the game, you know, and you know, at least in that time before voice comms, you didn't really talk to people about how was your day, how was work, how was school. That wasn't until like Vent became a thing.
It wasn't until right now with Behind the Avatar, alltabme.com.
Exactly. I love that plug. But exactly. So yeah, that wasn't a thing back then. And so all we talked about was we need to slay this dragon and I want to get some fat loot. Like that was all we talked about. And that was all I had time to freaking type because I was healing bitches. And so I wasn't like typing my day was fine because then someone would die.
Well, and and if you typed too long, the guy would be off your screen by the time you were done finished.
Right. So, you know, it never came up, at least in early MMO gaming. Now, Warhammer Online was one of the MMOs that I played, which actually was a big turning point in my MMO career. Mostly because in Warhammer Online, I met a group of people who I still play with today, and who accept me for who I am, and you know all that stuff. And I can get into that in a little bit, but you know, Warhammer Online was the first MMO where, you know, I started telling people, yeah, I'm a gay guy, and I also play video games. And you know, I was fortunate enough that I was in a guild at the time. And all we did in Warhammer was PvP. You know, there was rarely any PvE.
Yeah.
And you know, the group of guys that I played with, I didn't like come out to them like when I joined the guild or anything. It just happened, you know, while we were PvPing one day. You know, we just were chatting in Vent like you always do, and somehow, somewhere, I just told them, yeah, I'm a gay guy. But I think the nice thing about that was, before that conversation even happened, I had already established myself as, you know, they knew me as, you know, the warrior priest who healed them and kept them alive. And so to them, at least at the time, all they cared about was, when shit hit the fan, could I keep bitches alive? And I did. And so they could care less if I was a guy, a girl, gay, straight, whatever it was. You know, they wanted a healer, and that's what I played. And so, you know, I was fortunate that they were like, cool, like, let's keep playing. And so, you know, I think that was the first time my MMO life that, you know, I really opened up to a bunch of people that I played with, and they were cool with it. And so I still play with those guys today. I actually play Diablo 3 with them, you know. I play Diablo 3 right now when I'm not playing this game. And so, yeah, and we still keep in touch. I've actually met them. I visit them often. They live in Rochester, New York, so whenever I go to Rochester, I'm visiting those guys. But yeah, so I did eventually, the long answer to your question, I did eventually start telling people I was gay, but it did take some time because, I mean, even today you find a lot of hate and a lot of toxicity in gaming culture.
Which actually leads me to a perfect question here. Like, what do you think of the gaming culture in general? And mind you, now, you know, the gaming culture has, you know, fluctuated and changed, and I wouldn't necessarily say it's gone up in a ramp style. It's more like an up and down, up and down. It goes in phases, right? It's not changing constantly in the same direction. I feel like sometimes it goes backwards, sometimes it goes forwards. But you know, during your timing of gaming and now and all that stuff, like, you know, you still have the culture of, like, let's say the Call of Duty type of games, or the, you know, the shooters, or the games that get competitive and people get really heated. Yeah. And the first thing that out of their mouth is, "Fuck you, fag," like something like that, or, you know, "You're gay," or "I raped you," or, you know, things that you know, you normally wouldn't get away with saying in anywhere else in the cultural life without getting punched in the face.
Right. And, you know, obviously the lens that I look through life, and that includes playing video games, is, oh shit. I was like, why is she shooting? Stupid swamp cat. Or
cool
savage cat, whatever the hell that is. So obviously the lens that I look through is from a gay guy's perspective. So, you know, as I talk about this, bear in mind that I'm looking at everything from that lens. And, you know, I I played League of Legends in Season 1 and Season 2, and that's actually one of the reasons why I left that game, is because it was a very toxic environment, at least when I left. Hopefully it has improved, I don't know if it has, where people did throw around those types of words. And, you know, fortunately, fortunately, I'm in a place in my life now that when people say those types of things, I've kind of healed from all of that, and it doesn't hurt me. I mean, obviously, it still bothers me if people, you know, say that word, and I will tell them not to say it. But there are people who actually have really strong emotions to those types of words, and when you say them, it hits them in a way. And, you know, I don't condone it, and I don't like it. And, you know, especially when you get into those really competitive games like MOBAs or the shooters, or, you know, any other game where people just say things like that, you know, it's not okay. You know, at least in the movement of LGBTQIA, because that's the entire acronym, game developers are starting to introduce those types of people into video games.
Uh-oh, hold on. We're having technical difficulties. My game just crashed.
Uh-oh. Okay. You know, kind of to fast forward a little bit to current day, I think game developers are starting to introduce these types of characters into video games. It's actually one of the reasons why I still have an active subscription to Star Wars, even though I don't play it, you know, a lot, is because BioWare as a studio continues to introduce gay characters in their games, whether it's this game, and, you know, this guy right here that's my companion, he's actually him and this other girl in the story are bisexual love interests for your character. So later, if I play, you know, if I have a male Jedi, I can romance this dude right here, and this MMO allows me to do that. There aren't many MMOs out there that allow you to do that. I think the only other one that does is Final Fantasy XIV, because Final Fantasy XIV allows you to get married to whoever you want. And so...
Yeah, your guy is definitely way sexier than my avatar, so...
Yes. So this guy is a cutie, and so, you know, this MMO allows me to escape into that and, you know, have a romantic relationship with this guy. And, you know, we're not going to see it in this playthrough, but, you know, there are romantic conversations with dialogue choices that you can have with this guy. So BioWare also came out with Dragon Age, which allows you to, there's actually gay exclusive characters in that game where if you're not gay, you can't romance them, which is huge. And so Dragon Age Inquisition allows you to do that, which also came out of BioWare. And then Mass Effect 3, also from this studio, has gay interests for you. And so I think there are game developers who are starting to give you options, which is now at least exposing other gamers to these people, to at least let them know, hey, these people exist in your video games. And so
yeah, I feel like video gaming, you know, yeah, well, I feel like video gaming has always been a very exclusive boys club.
It has been.
You know, even women, and you mentioned earlier that we do have an article on AltTabMe about, you know, what it's like to be a girl gamer, where, you know, we went undercover as a girl. We pretended to be a girl gamer in the worst possible way, you know, like the hearts and fluffy type and everything. And we just and we stayed undercover in a guild for 2 weeks, and we wrote down the entire experience. And to me it changed me, because I was like, I expected to get free shit, and I expected to, you know, to get like harassed a little bit. I never expected for the constant harassment, for the ability to know everything about everyone's life, yet whenever I had any ability to get power, they would take it away from me. They were like, "No, we don't want a girl in charge." And it was incredible how the paradigm shifted once they found out I was a guy too, because then they were like, "Oh, cool." And it was like, "Wait, what?" They were like, "Well, now that we know that you were a dude the whole time, we know that the drama wasn't real." And I'm like, "No, actually the drama was real. Right. You guys created the drama over this character, and that was very real. And I think people, you know, in the gaming world, that, you know, it's always been it's definitely, like I said, it's a boys club.
Yes.
And so
this body, by the way.
I did this time. I saw you doing it.
Good.
So yeah.
Good. But yeah, I mean that, you know, that still exists, and you know that article is so good. I think that was actually one of the first articles that I read on Tab when I wasn't a member yet, and so it does. I mean, it's sad, but it's true, and it exists. And I think it, to an extent, it still exists today, because I know that I game with people who act that way, where
oh, of course it does, yeah. And
there's
those that will take advantage of it, and there's those that hate it, and then there's those that are, you know, they don't care either way. So it's you know, it's not something this is what I've always thought. I've always thought that the gaming industry, because of World of Warcraft, got thrown into mainstream way too fast. It wasn't ready to be a cultural phenomenon, because the people weren't ready to accept it as that. Because when you get that much attention and you're that mainstream, if you look at movies and TV and stuff like that, there's etiquette. There is a certain way that you have to handle yourself in order to get that done. Mind you, behind the doors and behind the scenes, sure, shit changes. You know, it could be terrible, it could be horrible, there could be some stuff going on. But that final product that you see, where everybody sits in the theater and they shut the hell up, or they, you know, maybe have their cell phone, but then somebody yells at them. You know, there's that etiquette, and I know it sounds like it's a horrible example for, like, you know, but how does that have to do with, you know, girl gamers, or how does that have to do with gay gamers? And it's like, because there is a standard for what is acceptable and what is not, and not in a way of restricting people, but in a way of saying, handle your own shit, stop, you know, don't take, you know, whatever semblance of internet anonymity that you still have and take it to the extreme.
Right. Well, I completely agree with you, and you know, I think it's always going to be a thing. You know, from the time that EverQuest and World of Warcraft first came out, you know, at least at that time, the gaming profile was quite different, because the gaming profile at the time, you know, people always thought of the nerdy white males who were in the basement, you know, with their computer, no social life. Loot this corpse, by the way. No social life. Sorry. I know. I wanted to make sure you got credit for this quest. Right. And you know, at least a lot of what we're talking about stems from that, because then, you know, these are people who at that time didn't have a lot of social interaction with others. You know, when they met someone who they thought was a girl, it created certain things in their mind because they didn't talk to girls outside of their video game. The profile has changed now. There are a lot more people playing video games. You know, it's accessible more to tons of people. You have people playing video games on their iPhones. You know, I just came from a gamer convention, and there was a panelist who all she did was play games on her iPhones, and that was what she was talking about, and how, you know, the hardcore gamers don't accept her as a gamer because she plays iPhone games. But she identifies as a gamer, and why shouldn't she? Because a gamer plays video games. And so
Candy Crush is not a video game.
So that's exactly kind of what she was getting at. Although she actually named like 5 things that are like legit games.
All right, good. Because I'm sorry. Like, if she was trying to like advocate for Candy Crush, no, I would smack that shit down.
She wasn't advocating for Candy Crush. She wasn't. She actually, like, someone made a joke about it in the audience, and she's like, I actually don't play Candy Crush.
Thank Jesus.
And so yeah, so she was like legitimately a gamer playing, like, you know, iPhone games. And so, you know, but kind of to your point, there is the perception that, you know, a gamer is a certain thing, you know, whether it's a male, a female. Oh, there's a body here.
Well, and I feel, and I feel like the gaming community has not realized that yet. They haven't realized that there are so many avenues for video games that you can be a gamer and you can be playing on a phone. You can be a gamer and only have ever played one game in your entire life, and then you're addicted and you love it. You could be a gamer and just follow people gaming. You can be a gamer and just watch people gaming these days. Like, you don't have to be a hardcore, you know, pimpled face, you know, like the generic even say, you know, like saying that is a stereotype, but the stereotype is what I'm saying. You don't have to be that. You are who you are. It's like, you know, you like to play a girl character. I like to play a girl character. You're gay. I'm not gay. So what?
Exactly.
We both play games, and that's what's important, and that's what's fun.
And you know, that's actually a challenge for me, or it was a challenge, kind of still is, because at least even within the gay community, there's a lot of perceptions about someone who plays video games. And so, you know, there have been times when, you know, I've dated guys and I told, you know, I would, you know, when we're getting to know each other, what do you do for fun? Oh, I play video games. They're like, ew. And so even
just so you know, this exists in the straight community as well.
I know, but totally, I totally get it. I know, because even within high school, you know, all of the gamers never really told other people that they were gamers.
Right, and to try,
we could all identify each other. I mean, I knew who played video games.
And trying to convince your girlfriend that, you know, you play video games and that's not going to affect your social life. It's like trying to, you know,
exactly.
I'm not even going to get into that.
No, I know, but you know, it's just, fortunately, the industry has come a long way from the early days, you know, 1990s, 2000s, when MMOs were starting to just proliferate in popularity. And, you know, World of Warcraft, people who love it and hate it are going to love and hate it regardless, but it did, the thing that World of Warcraft and Blizzard did really well is that it made a game accessible to just millions of people.
Yes,
and
that is absolutely what it did. Mm-hmm.
Right, and it helped to at least start the conversation of, this is a video game, and look at how many millions of people play this video game. I mean, I remember there was... Oh, shit. I got knocked somewhere fierce. I remember sitting in class one day, and there was this girl on her laptop, and this was in college, mind you, and she was a cute, pretty girl. She was playing her wizard during class, World of Warcraft. I would never have pegged her as a video gamer, but she was sitting in the row in front of me. Her name was Julia, I still remember her, and we were friends, no idea. And I would never have profiled her as a video gamer. And so that is an example of that game just bringing MMOs, gaming, whatever you want to call it, to the masses. And so I think you're right. I think we still have a ways to go, but we have made progress over the last 20 years. I mean, I've seen the progress, you know, in, you know, communities that I interact with now are quite different from the ones I interacted with 15 years ago. And so, for better or for worse, this is the current state of the gaming community. And we still have a ways to go.
Yeah, I mean, it'll always, you know, it'll always be growing, and I definitely, you know, I definitely think that there's places where it can improve and stuff like that. But anyway, I want to get back on the topic of you, because I kind of want to wrap this up. We've been going for a while.
Yes.
You know, so a lot of gamers are considered introverted people.
Yep.
How do you feel gaming has affected your ability to go out and, whoa, again, we're thrown back 12,000 feet. I'm like, I'm trying to ask him a question, you fucking monster.
Ridiculous.
How do you think gaming affects in a positive light, and then in a negative light, those that are more introverted than others?
Sure.
And like, you know what? Let me rephrase that. How does it affect you?
Sure. So before I get into how it affects me, I do have to at least explain what introvert and extrovert is, because there may be some people who watch this who may or may not know what those terms mean. And I actually, for the longest time, had a misconception of what those terms mean. Introverts are perceived to be quiet individuals who are reserved and keep to themselves, whereas the extroverts are the people who are the life of the party, always chatting, socializing, popular, things like that. Okay, click this body. Those are true. I mean, those are definitely characteristics and things to define people. On any given day, you will see me acting both ways. Introversion and extroversion, actually, to be more accurate, reflects how the individual takes information and takes stimulus. And so an introverted person, I'm an introverted person. I'm a very strongly introverted person. Oh God, this quest does require thoughts, so I'm going to try to complete my thought. I am an introverted person, and so when stimuli come at me, whether it's people talking, whether it's the phone ringing, whether it's, you know, just distractions around you, that all drains me of my energy, because it requires me as an introverted person to, in order to engage with that type of energy, it just takes a lot out of me. And so introverted people, you know, the way that they react to stimuli is it drains them, whereas extroverted people, they feed off of that energy. And so an extroverted person, if you put them in the same environment, like a party, you know, all the people talking to them and all the loud music and the phone ringing, and they get energy from that. It re-energizes them. You can be an introverted person, so I am an introverted person, but when I'm at a party, I can be very social, I can be very outgoing, I can be talkative, but when I go home, I'm exhausted. And then so I need that time to just recharge, reset myself, get back to baseline. Whereas the extroverted person, when they go home, they're like, oh man, I have no more energy because all of the stimulus that was keeping me going is now gone. So to get to me now, I am an introverted person. And so video gaming, the way that it's at least positively affected me is that, you know, I can immerse myself into a game and just shut out, you know, everything else in the world. So like, you know, in this game, for example, I can stop thinking about work. I can stop thinking about, you know, if there are problems going on with my family or my relationships or whatever. And for the brief moment that I am in the game, I am this bounty hunter killing shit. And it allows me to kind of recharge myself, and it allows me to, you know, get back to my natural baseline.
Now, with the introduction of voice comms and, you know, all these ways that we're expected to communicate with one another whilst playing, you know, an MMO. I used whilst. I'm so proud. Does that?
I'm so proud of you too. That's a very good use of that word.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Does that affect your, you know, does that affect your ability to recharge?
It does. You know, when you get a whole bunch of people in voice comms, you get all types of people. And, you know, the time when I noticed this the most was when I was raiding in WildStar, because when I was raiding in WildStar, we would have 20 people in voice comms, plus the other people who were like the alternates if people didn't show up, plus the other people who had to be there to, you know, put rules down and everything. And so there were just a lot of voices and a lot of people. And there were the people who didn't speak, but then there were the people who were, and they talked a lot. And so there are times when you are in voice comms, depending on what it is that you're doing, it's just a lot of things coming at you at once. And so, you know, as a gamer and as someone who knows myself well enough, if I get into voice comms in a situation where I know that there are going to be a lot of people, I have to be ready for that. And so if that means that I just got home from work, you know, I need about an hour before I can log into a game if I know that I'm going to be on voice comms with other people, because at any given moment they're going to start talking to me and asking me questions and expect me to interact.
So it can play both roles. Now, what the other question I have for you is, has there ever been a point where you feel as though video gaming has caused you to become more introverted than you normally would be, because it can play to that a little bit?
It can. And this kind of goes back to your question earlier about how do you balance it all? Because I think it's very easy, especially if you're a person that has, an addicting personality. And when I say addicting, it means that you get addicted to things. I definitely can say that at one point in my life, maybe earlier in my life, I probably was addicted to MMOs and playing them nonstop instead of doing other things that needed to happen, like going to class or talking to my boyfriend or whatever it may be. And so from the perspective of taking someone and removing them from the outside world, it did affect me, because there were times in my life where I chose to play a video game instead of going out to a club or going to meet people for lunch or going to class, which meant that I was deciding and choosing to not interact with other people. And I don't know if that's necessarily an introverted extroverted thing as much as it is just a behavioral thing, because I think extroverted people can also just find all of their stimulus from a video game and then choose to stay home instead of interacting with the world.
Yeah, I mean, they defined me as extroverted in every possible way, but I remember that I couldn't stay home and play video games because I always felt like I was, I had the FOMO thing going on. I was fear of missing out. And then one day I stayed home and I played Diablo instead of going and driving around randomly with my friends to do nothing. And I was so happy and content with that I was like, oh, I don't have to do that. But then, so that's the positive light of it, that I actually learned that I didn't have to, force myself to go out all the time just to be with my friends. But the bad part about it was that, sometimes, I had the ability to just stay and not interact with anyone because I had this group of people and these, always something to do in this video game. And so it would limit me in terms of, who I could go, my real life interactions, so to say. I wasn't growing in my real life experience, but my in-game experience was growing exponentially, which some people could say go hand in hand, but I find that there is definitely a difference in those two things.
Absolutely. And so, yes, it does require, even to this day, it does require me to be thoughtful and mindful about, okay, I'm home from work now, I'm home from the gym now, I'm home from going to lunch with people. Can I reward myself with video games? And, it is something that I continuously have to work on, because I do have the propensity and the affinity to get addicted to things. And so, fortunately, I'm not addicted to things like drugs or things like, I don't know, expensive things like gambling. But I know that my personality does lend itself that, I can get absorbed into a game and play for like 18 hours straight and think, oh wow, where did the day go? So it is something that I do have to continuously work on, and I'm mindful of that. And that's part of the reason why now I kind of choose not to play MMOs as much as I love them, because, after I stopped raiding in this game, all of a sudden I had all this time, which meant that I could go to the gym, or I could go to dinner with somebody, or I could read a book, or just anything. And so, there's no longer that feel or need or expectation or anything that I have to do. If I choose to indulge myself in video games now, it's because I want to do it, and I don't owe it to anyone else to do that.
I think that's a really healthy way to look at it. You know, gaming has changed. It's changed from the days of, you know, you have to have your friends over and they have to sit on the couch right next to you to play, to you can be in one country and the other person could be in another country, and you literally could have never met each other and will never meet each other and still feel as though you have a great relationship and you know this person really well. And you know, that's great and it's amazing, and there's so many positive things that can come out of that. But if you don't you know, give yourself time to, you know, interact in ways that are not in, you know, a virtual world that is so mystical and so magical, I feel as though that can, you know, that can definitely take a toll.
Exactly. And, you know, through AltTabMe, I've been able to game with all types of people, even not only just the people across the United States, but you know, I gamed with people in Europe and Australia, and you know, I've had a chance to talk to all types of different people. And you know, at the end of the day, the thing that we shared in common, which brought us together, was video games, or a video game. And so, you know, it's no different than, you know, when you meet someone on the train or at school or at work, there's something that you share in common or some reason why you ended up meeting them, but then from there it's up to you to grow that relationship. And so, you know, there are people in AltTabMe that I will talk to every day at some point, whether it's through, you know, our chat room or in private messaging, or if I play video games with some of them. And that's something that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And so, you know, it's just one of those other things that, you know, as a person, it's part of who I am. It's not all of who I am. It's definitely a form of entertainment that I consume and choose to consume. And so, you know, just like people who read books or watch movies or, you know, do whatever they do for their free time, this happens to be what I do in mine. And
no, I agree. I think it's great. And, you know, it took me a while to understand. Oh, we got help.
Oh.
My bad.
Are you getting
I'm
annihilated?
Them.
These are hard though, because there's elites in these packs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there's one that hits like a truck.
Yeah, no, I mean, it took me a while to come to grips with the fact that I ran a gaming site and that was something that I enjoyed doing with my free time. And that, you know, like when you meet someone new, especially, you know, someone that you want to introduce into your life, and it's a, you know, a lover or something like that, and it was difficult for me to finally come to the point where I was like, yeah, so what do you do for fun? And I'm like, well, actually, I run a video game site, and I do interviews, or I do podcasts, and I design web stuff, and I play games with these guys. And it was amazing what would happen when I accepted it, how they would accept it. And I think that's so true for so many things in the gaming community. A lot of, you know, it's like there's a lot of unacceptance, but but not from the receiving party, but from the actual person that is trying to give.
And to kind of bring that to kind of, you know, applications when you're not in the virtual world. I mean, regardless of if you're a gamer, if you're a skater, if you're a poet, if you're a singer, whatever you may be, people are attracted to confidence, you know, and self-esteem, you know. So if you're a confident individual, and if you're someone who takes pride in what you do, people see that, and so they may see past the, you know, video game stigma now, because, you know, I'm kind of the same way these days. When I meet people, you know, I tell them what I do for my day job. You know, I work at a hospital, I'm in management. This is what I do, you know, for 40 to 50 hours of my week. When I'm not doing that, here are the other things that I do. One of those things happens to be video games. And then even with video games, you know, I've slowly become a, I guess, media enthusiast, because I'm starting to teach myself, you know, how to use Photoshop and how to use, you know, Adobe Premiere, because I'm starting to venture into the world of just making little movies and video clips of things that I enjoy. So things like gay romances in video games, you know, that's actually a project that I'm starting to work on, where I'm eventually going to have a video of a gay romance in a video game. And
nice.
So, and these are just things that, you know, I'm doing because I happen to love video games. You know, back in, oh, there's something attacking me. Back in the day when I was in college, video games served a different purpose for me. You know, it's no longer about me you know, being able to kill another player on the other end and feel good about it, because there was a point in my life when, you know, in PvP, that is what gave me fuel, was knowing that I annihilated somebody on the other side. You know, my video game is no longer about that. I've grown as an individual now. I no longer have self-esteem issues or, you know, confidence issues. And so now gaming has turned into something where I enjoy it. I love the stories that come with it. I love relating to characters in them. I love the developers that notice that and are giving me characters to relate to now. You know, I don't have to make a girl anymore to have a romance with a guy. I can create a guy now and do that. And that wasn't something I could do 20 years ago. And so, you know, it's gaming has now turned into something that is an enjoyable pastime for me, that I consume as a consumer and get a lot of pleasure out of it. So,
no, I find it very interesting. You know, your path that you went on and how you started and where you've gone, and you know how it helped you through hard times and how it helped you through good times, and you know how you've grown with it, how you've adjusted to it, and how it's changing still. And tomorrow gaming might be completely different again. And you know, I appreciate you sharing all this with us. This is why I wanted to do the behind the Avatar series. I feel as though there are so many stories that you would just never know, you know, running around with someone and saying, "Yo, heal me," you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, yeah,
although
sure,
for the first part of my gaming career, that's what I was. I was the heal bot, or the carry heal, you know?
Yeah.
But you're right. And so I
mean, even talking on Ventrilo or voice chat, you know, you never really get into depth about, you know, childhood stories and stuff like that. Like, it might come up here and there, but do you ever, you know, it's nice to be able to put this story together. It's like I've just read the book of Millie over here, and it's very interesting to me.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, and a little plug to the series. I hope that you continue doing it, and I encourage other people to also take part, because I'm just one story out of many. You know, there are so many people on Tab, so many different stories. All of us are unique people with all these wonderful things to share, and so hopefully more people will do it.
Yeah, and you don't have to be on AltTabMe to join this. You can be anybody in the gaming community. I have no problem coming into your game, your favorite game, or whatever it is that you would like to have your avatar shown as, and you know, talking to you. I'd love to hear your story. I think it's very interesting, and I think other people will find it very interesting. And for those of you that, you know, are now finishing this up and going, holy shit, why was this a video? I think that you can also listen to these as like a podcast or something that you throw in your headphones, and it's, you know, it's kind of like story time with someone, and it's getting to know those people around you. And you know, like, we have a community, it's called alttabme.com, and you can go there and you can get to know these people, and then you can join it and you can interact with them, and then you can play a video like this and you can learn a little bit more. It's like clicking a data cube in WildStar, where it has, you know, a little bit more lore than what you would normally get from just running around the world. And that's kind of the idea here, is to give you a little bit more lore to the avatars, to the people, and to what gaming means to them. And by all means, I have a list of questions. I got through maybe, I'd say 5 of them with you. So yeah, I have a ton of things that I'd love to ask people. A lot of things, you know, it's as you're telling me these stories, and as you're telling me your experiences, and as you're leveling my character up to 13 from 11.
Nice.
You know,
if you ever want to come back, I'm here.
there it is. But you know, I adjust to what you're talking about, because I want to know your story. I don't want it to be a generic question of, you know, how XYZ. You know, I have my list, but I really am going to go with what, you know, your story is, and what is interesting to you, and what, you know, defines you as a gamer. So I really appreciate you coming out with me today, Millie, and I'm going to stop chasing you now, because I'm going to definitely be logging out. I'll help you kill this guy here so that you don't die.
I'll be alright.
But yeah, so this was... so I'm known as Triage, T-R-1-A-G-E, at alttabme.com. Also, Tristan is my name. This is Millie, or how the hell do you pronounce your name? Because I've always said Milleuda in my head.
It's Malouda, but everyone knows me as Millie.
So it's Malouda, Milleuda. And
Yes.
he's also on Alt Tab Me. I kind of wanted to start this with some people that I knew, start this with the community. You know, we have a very specific, it's a safe environment over at Alt Tab Me, and I felt like this was a cool way to start this. And yeah,
Awesome
so hopefully,
environment.
yeah, it's really cool. It's a lot of fun, and I hope that you all enjoyed this, and I hope to do a bunch more. And yeah, that's really it. Thanks again for watching.
Thanks,
and
Triage.
you are welcome.
Great.
And I guess
hopefully one day we'll get to do your interview.
yeah, maybe if somebody has like
Maybe. I would totally interview you one day.
so maybe one day you'll even see me on the other side of the mic. Although I'm on the other side of the mic right now on the camera. What the hell am I talking about?
Exactly.
But yeah, no, I find everybody's story to be interesting, and if somebody wants to know my story, I'd be happy to not tell them. Just see what I did there.
Everybody wants to know.
No. So, yeah, once again, alttabme.com. Check it out, and I'm sure we'll have more of these. Behind the Gamer, this is our first try. I hope you enjoy it. We'll only get better from here, and have an awesome, excellent holiday season.